If you've been following the shifting elves and eldritch horrors of the Darkness City universe, you already know the vibe, right? We're talking neon glowing through perpetual smog, blood literally running thick in the gutters, and these ancient, unnameable things stretching their shadows across the cobblestones. It is a world where survival is absolutely never guaranteed. So, welcome back to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack the distinct manifestations, motivations, and mechanics of evil in Vanaheim. We are diving way beyond the surface-level street battles to truly understand what drives the darkness in this world, and honestly, why it's so terrifyingly effective.
Here's what we're covering today. We'll start with the faces of evil, then move through the beast, the zealot, and the void, before wrapping it all up with the parasite of darkness.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the faces of evil.
So we aren't just dealing with a single, boring flavor of villainy in Darkness City. We can basically categorize all this madness into 3 distinct archetypes that really escalate in threat and complexity. First up, we've got the Beast. This is primarily embodied by Victoria, a former high society elite who just completely succumbs to her core motivations of survival, jealousy, and this raw lust for violence. Next, we scale things up to the institutional level with the Zealot, represented by the incredibly charismatic Reverend Michael Flowers. His brand of evil is entirely about control, power, and, well, massive hypocritical megalomania. And finally, we hit the cosmic level with the Void. This is channeled through the ancient dark elf Vodo, whose literal only goal is the total consumption and corruption of reality itself.
Moving on to part 2, primal bloodlust and the beast.
Let's look at this absolutely chilling philosophy from Lexi. If you remember her arc in the Alley of the Damned, you know that area is just a cutthroat, lawless meat grinder. Lexi isn't hatching some grand world-ending scheme in a villain lair. She's simply surviving the only way she knows how. This first archetype views chaos and bloodshed not as a tragedy, but as the beautiful, natural order of things. When you're dealing with the beast archetype, there's no twisted religion or master plan. It is simply the belief that the blood calls to them, and yielding to that feral instinct is the ultimate, untethered freedom. It is brutal naturalism in its purest form.
Take Victoria, for example. When she is consumed by that intense jealousy over Sigrid's sudden meteoric rise to power, that resentment doesn't just make her bitter, it literally mutates her. It breaks her physical form. She doesn't sit in a dark room and plot. Instead, her bones violently crack, black fur tears right through her expensive silk dresses, and she transforms into this amber-eyed panther beast. It's such a messy, feral violence. Characters operating at this level of evil fully embrace the monster within, leaving these devastating trails of blood and torn flesh through the neon-lit streets of the red light district simply because they're angry and, well, they can. But as terrifying as a rampaging panther is, it's a wonderfully honest sort of evil. You know exactly what it wants, to tear you apart.
Which brings us to part 3, righteous malice, focusing on the Zealot.
So as the threat level escalates from a direct physical danger to a deeply spiritual one, we transition away from chaotic street brawls and into organized, hypocritical evil. Unlike Victoria's honest savagery, where, she knows she's a monster and totally revels in it, Reverend Michael Flowers chains his dark desires to these rigid, clinical rules. He operates his twisted ministry out in the cursed woods under the guise of divine salvation, basically using religious fanaticism to justify his own megalomania. When Victoria kills, it's a feral crime of passion. When Flowers kills, it's a meticulously structured ritual designed to elevate his own vanity. And there's a certain dark absurdity to it all, right? He orchestrates these unspeakable, gory atrocities while somehow ensuring his bespoke white suit never catches a single drop of blood.
Under the guise of purging sin, Flowers commands his fanatical and highly institutionalized evil. I mean, he literally raises Dragger. Those horrifying, hollowed-out husks we see stumbling through the cursed woods under the crimson moon? Yeah, that's him. The terrifying reality of being one of his followers is that your identity and free will are just meticulously wiped away. He uses a self-righteous structure to commit atrocities, convincing his victims that cutting away pieces of their own humanity is somehow the only path to perfection. It's an institution demanding blind faith, which honestly makes it a far more insidious form of evil than a beast in an alleyway. As we see with Flowers, the most dangerous evil often hides behind a charismatic smile and the false promise of salvation.
Now we're getting into the really crazy stuff. Part 4, cosmic corruption and the void.
We've got to zoom way out now to the ultimate existential threat that connects all this lore, the ancient, formless evil known as the Void.
Eons ago, during the Cataclysmic Reconciliation Wars, the Dark Elves and these cosmic horrors were pushed to the absolute fringes of existence, but they left behind anchors. These are artifacts that just fester beneath the surface of the world. The Black Egg is one of these anchors, and it isn't just a weapon to kill a rival or rule a city. When someone like Reverend Flowers tries to harness the Black Egg, he foolishly believes he's achieving godhood. Actually, scratch that. It's more like he's just blindly turning the handle on a door, opening a pathway for an infinite, world-breaking hunger that wants to consume and assimilate every single atom of creation.
Whenever avatars of this cosmic evil, like Voodoo or the Leviathan, breach our reality, they bring a visceral, sickening corruption with them. The void doesn't just kill, it warps. It leaves behind this black, oily residue that smells of ozone and dead stars, literally poisoning the earth. It manifests as writhing, impossible tentacles that don't just crush you, but actively rewrite the biology of living elves and humans, turning them into hollow, twitching abominations. And the worst part? Before the physical assimilation even begins, it invades the mind. It subjects its victims to psychic hallucinations, trapping them in endless loops of their own worst nightmares. This is an evil that respects nothing, fears nothing, and feeds on everything in its path.
Finally, we reach part 5, the parasite of darkness, the connective tissue of it all.
By looking at all these levels, we uncover the underlying mechanic of all evil in Vanaheim. It is inherently parasitic. It's this terrifying ecosystem of corruption that operates in 3 devastating steps. First, the darkness exploits a flawed, angry host. We saw this when it latched right onto Victoria's blinding jealousy. Second, it feeds on those negative emotions, granting the host a temporary, intoxicating rush of power. That's exactly how Flowers fuels his rituals with the fanatical zeal of his followers. Third, and finally, it hollows out the host entirely, leaving nothing but a compliant vessel for Voldo and the void to step through. The true horror of Darkness City isn't just that monsters are invading from the outside, it's that they are actively invited in by the character's deepest, unaddressed flaws.
This unforgettable monologue completely redefines the lore for me. Think back to that brutal scene in the Grand Library. Victoria is screaming, and not in rage, but in pure, unimaginable agony as the eldritch entity uses her spine as a scaffold to pull itself into our world. When it finally tears its way out of her, she simply deflates onto the marble floor. Left behind is nothing but a discarded dark elf skin suit. And then, the towering tentacled mass speaks this line. It reveals that the darkness is never truly defeated by powerful spells or plasma beams. It simply waits. It waits in the shadows, festering inside jealous, bitter little hearts, just patiently looking for someone empty enough to swallow it whole.
As we conclude this explainer, we really have to deeply consider the nature of temptation in this universe. The elves of Darkness City spend their lives fighting feral beasts in the alleys, battling hypocritical zealots in the woods, and holding back cosmic tentacles from beyond the veil. But ultimately, the lore reveals a terrifying truth. The real battle is always fought from within. If the void can only take root in a hollow heart, then defeating evil isn't just about how fast you can swing a sword or cast a hex. It's about vigilantly guarding your own humanity, making sure you don't become empty enough to let the darkness in. It's such a fascinating psychological layer to the action, leaving us with one lingering, chilling question. Who in Darkness City will be the next to invite the void inside?